I reported my professor for sexual harassment after he groped me and propositioned me. The dean said there's not enough evidence and I should drop the complaint or risk losing my scholarship. I'm 21F, senior year at a state university, full ride academic scholarship, 3.9 GPA, 4 years of perfect records, and now I'm being threatened with losing everything because I reported what happened to me. Professor Morrison teaches advanced economics, required course for my major. He's been at this school for 15 years, tenured, popular with students. Everyone says take his class. He's funny and grades easy. I registered thinking it'd be a good final semester class. First few weeks were normal, lectures, assignments, nothing weird. Then about a month ago, he asked me to stay after class, said he wanted to discuss my last paper. I'd gotten a B+, which was lower than my usual so I figured he was giving feedback. Everyone else left. He closed the door, started talking about my paper, said it was good but needed work, asked if I'd be willing to meet outside class hours for extra help. I said sure. Office hours work. He said he meant somewhere more casual, maybe coffee. I said office hours were fine. He smiled weird and said okay, but that I should think about being more flexible if I wanted better grades. I left feeling uncomfortable but told myself I was reading too much into it. Next class, he called on me constantly, every question directed at me. When I answered correctly, he'd say things like smart and beautiful or looks and brains. Dangerous combination. Other students noticed. My friend texted me during class asking if Morrison was hitting on me. After that class, he asked me to stay again. I said I had another class. He said this was important. Everyone left. He moved closer, too close, put his hand on my lower back and said I had real potential and he'd like to mentor me personally. I stepped away, said I wasn't interested in mentorship outside normal academic channels. He said that was disappointing, that students who took advantage of his mentorship usually did very well, students who didn't often struggled. That was a clear threat. I left quickly. Next paper I turned in, I got a C. I've never gotten a C on anything. The comments were vague, lacks depth and unclear thesis, but nothing specific I could improve. I went to his office hours with the paper. Big mistake. He closed the door, sat too close, went through the paper but kept touching my arm, my shoulder, said if I wanted to improve my grade, we should meet somewhere private to go over it properly, his place or mine, suggested that weekend. I said no, stood up to leave. He stood too, blocked the door, put his hand on my waist, said I was being stubborn and it wasn't attractive, that he could help my career or hurt it, my choice. I pushed past him and left. My hands were shaking. I went straight to my dorm and wrote down everything that happened with dates and times. That was 3 weeks ago. I avoided his office, participated minimally in class, turned in my next assignment through the online portal, got another C. Last week was when it got worse. I stayed after class to ask a classmate about the homework. Morrison came up behind me. Everyone else had left. He put both hands on my shoulders and leaned in close, said I'd been avoiding him and it hurt his feelings, that we should talk about it over dinner. I pulled away, said I wasn't interested and asked him to stop. He grabbed my arm, not hard enough to bruise but firm enough that I couldn't pull free easily, said I was making a mistake, that he'd given me opportunities and I was throwing them away, that my grades would reflect my bad attitude. I yanked my arm free and ran out, went straight to the Title IX office and filed a report. They took my statement, said they'd investigate. I gave them dates, times, details of every incident. They said they'd interview Morrison and get back to me. 2 days later, Morrison approached me before class, smiled like nothing was wrong, said he'd heard I filed a complaint and was disappointed I hadn't come to him first to work things out, that there must have been a misunderstanding. I didn't respond, just sat down. That class, he announced a surprise quiz. We'd had no warning. It was on material we hadn't covered yet. Everyone did badly but he made a point of handing mine back first. Wrote see me on top. I didn't see him. I went back to Title IX and reported the retaliation. Yesterday I got called to the dean's office, Dean Williams. He had my file open, said he'd reviewed my complaint and Morrison's response, that Morrison denied everything, said all interactions were appropriate academic advising that I'd misinterpreted. I said there were multiple incidents, that Morrison had touched me inappropriately and threatened my grades. The dean said without witnesses or physical evidence, it's my word against a tenured professor's, that Morrison has an exemplary record and I have no proof. I said I wrote everything down immediately after each incident. He said that's just my account, could be fabricated. I said why would I fabricate something that puts my scholarship at risk? He didn't answer that. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. He said continuing this complaint would be disruptive to the academic environment and could impact my standing at the university, that Morrison is a valued faculty member and accusations like this have consequences, that I should think carefully about whether I want to proceed. I said I wanted to proceed. He said my scholarship is contingent on maintaining good academic standing and positive community engagement, that If my grades drop or if I'm seen as causing problems, the scholarship could be reviewed. I said Morrison is tanking my grades as retaliation and that's illegal. He said he can't comment on how professors grade students, that academic freedom means professors have discretion in grading. He strongly suggested I drop the complaint, said it would be better for everyone, that I could transfer to a different section of the course and we could all move on. I said there is no other section, it's only offered once a year and I needed to graduate. He said then I should drop the complaint and try to repair my relationship with Professor Morrison, work harder, show more respect, accept his mentorship. I left his office in shock, went straight to the Title IX office. They said the investigation is ongoing but these things take time, that I should continue attending class and documenting any further incidents. I don't feel safe going to class. Morrison knows I reported him and he's retaliating. The dean basically threatened my scholarship. I'm trapped. My parents don't know. They'd be devastated. I need the scholarship. Without it I can't afford to finish my senior year. I'm 3 classes away from graduating and one of them is Morrison's. My roommate says I should drop the complaint, that it's not worth losing everything over, that Morrison is powerful and I'm just a student, that even if I'm right, I won't win. My friend says I should go to the media, that the university is covering for Morrison and public pressure might help, but I'm scared that'll make everything worse. Another friend looked Morrison up on social media, found a former student's vague post from 2 years ago about inappropriate professors and uncomfortable experiences. No names but the timing matches when she would have had Morrison's class. I tried to message her, no response yet. I'm supposed to turn in a major paper tomorrow, worth 30% of my grade. I've been too anxious to focus. If I do badly, Morrison can tank my GPA. If my GPA drops, I lose my scholarship. If I lose my scholarship, I can't finish school. And the dean made it clear, if I push this complaint, they'll find a reason to revoke my scholarship anyway. Academic disruption, poor community engagement, whatever they need to justify it. So I can drop the complaint and try to survive Morrison's class for 8 more weeks, knowing he'll retaliate however he wants. Or I can continue the complaint and probably lose my scholarship, which means not graduating and having massive student debt for 3.5 years of college I didn't finish. I've worked so hard, perfect grades, leadership positions, research, everything I needed for grad school applications, and now a professor who groped me and threatened me gets to either assault me without consequences or destroy my academic career. Morrison sent an email today, subject line, checking in, said he noticed I seemed stressed and wanted to offer support. That his door is always open if I need to talk, that he cares about all his students' well-being, CC'd the department chair. It's a paper trail, making himself look concerned and helpful, setting up a narrative where I'm the troubled student and he's the caring professor. I don't know what to do, drop out of his class and delay graduation? Push the complaint and lose my scholarship? Give up and let him get away with it? Everyone says fight, but they're not the ones risking everything. They're not the ones who'll lose their scholarship and have to explain to their parents why they can't finish college. They're not the ones who have to sit in that classroom 3 times a week with a man who touched them and threatened them and is now systematically destroying their future. So tell me, what would you do? Because I genuinely don't know anymore. Update, 5 days later, I turned in my paper, got a D. Morrison's comment said it was poorly researched and didn't meet graduate-level expectations. It's an undergraduate course. He's not even trying to hide the retaliation anymore. My scholarship advisor emailed, wanted to meet about my recent academic performance. I went yesterday. She had my transcript pulled up, 3 grades from Morrison's class, B+, C-, C, and now D, everything else As and A-. She asked what was happening. I said I was having difficulties with that particular professor. She asked what kind of difficulties. I said I'd filed a Title IX complaint for harassment and he was retaliating. Her face changed, got careful, said she couldn't speak to ongoing Title IX investigations, that scholarship standing is based solely on academic metrics, that if my GPA drops below 3.5, the scholarship is automatically reviewed. I'm at 3.7 now. Morrison's grades are pulling me down. 1 more D or 2 more CS, and I'll hit 3.5. The review process takes weeks. Even if I appeal, I'd be without funding during appeals, can't pay tuition without the scholarship. I asked what I should do. She said that's not her area. She just monitors scholarship requirements. She suggested speaking to my academic advisor about options. My academic advisor said I could withdraw from Morrison's class, take an incomplete, try to take it next year with a different professor if one's teaching it, but that delays graduation, and I've already accepted a job offer starting next summer contingent on graduating in May. The job, I haven't even thought about that. If I don't graduate, I lose the job offer, entry-level position at a consulting firm, good salary, my way out, gone if I can't finish school. I went back to Title IX, asked about timeline. They said investigations typically take 60 to 90 days. It's been 3 weeks. Morrison will have tanked my grade completely by then. I asked about interim measures, protection from Retaliation. They said they'd already spoken to Morrison's department chair about maintaining appropriate boundaries. I said he's failing me in retaliation. They said they can't interfere with academic grading. I asked what's the point of Title IX if professors can just destroy students' grades with no consequences. The coordinator got defensive, said they're following procedure, that these things take time, that I need to be patient, while Morrison ruins everything I've worked for. I found the former student who posted vaguely about inappropriate professors. She finally responded, said she'd had Morrison 3 years ago, that he'd done similar things, inappropriate comments, touching, grade threats. She reported it, nothing happened, eventually dropped his class and graduated a semester late. She said 2 other women she knew had similar experiences with Morrison. None of them reported because they'd seen nothing happen when she did. They just avoided him and warned other students quietly. Morrison has been doing this for years. The university knows. They don't care. I contacted a lawyer. Free consultation. She said I have a case, both against Morrison and the university for Title IX violations. But lawsuits take years, cost tens of thousands. I don't have that kind of money or time. She said I could file a complaint with the Office for Civil Rights, federal investigation. But those also take years and don't help me right now. Right now I'm failing a class because I reported sexual harassment. Right now I'm losing my scholarship because I wouldn't let a professor grope me. Right now I'm watching my future disappear because I did the right thing. Morrison's been extra friendly in class, calls on me cheerfully, acts like we're fine, makes jokes. Other students probably think I'm paranoid for reporting him. He seems so normal, so nice. That's what makes this worse. He's not some obvious creep everyone avoids. He's popular, funny, students like him. Which means when I say he harassed me, people doubt it. He doesn't seem like that kind of guy. My roommate asked if I was sure I didn't misinterpret his actions. Said maybe he was just being friendly and I took it wrong. I showed her my documentation, every incident, every time he touched me, every threat. She went quiet, said she believed me but that this was really complicated. Like there's any complexity to Professor Groped's student and tanks her grades when she reports it. The dean's office called. They want another meeting. Tomorrow. I don't want to go but I have to. Probably going to pressure me to drop the complaint again. My grades in my other classes are slipping. Can't focus. Can't sleep. Constantly anxious. My friends say I should talk to someone. Can't afford it. Student Health Services has a 3-week wait for appointments. Everything is falling apart and Morrison is still teaching. Still has access to students. Still getting away with it. While I'm the one paying the price for reporting him. Update. The meeting met with Dean Williams today. He had Morrison there. Sitting in the dean's office like this was a mediation session. I should have brought someone with me. Title IX said I could have a support person. I didn't think I'd need one. Stupid. Dean said this meeting was to clear the air and find a path forward, that everyone wanted to resolve this amicably. Morrison nodded along, looked sad, like he was the victim here. Dean asked if I wanted to explain my concerns directly to Professor Morrison. I said I'd already explained them in my Title IX report. Dean said he thought direct communication might help, that maybe there were misunderstandings. I said there was no misunderstanding about Morrison putting his hands on me. Morrison said he'd never touched me inappropriately, that he may have put a hand on my shoulder in a supportive mentor capacity but nothing more, that I'd misread friendly professional interaction as something else. I said he grabbed my arm and blocked the door. He said he'd never blocked any door, that he was simply standing and I could have left any time, that I seemed to have a very active imagination. Dean asked about the grading. I said Morrison was retaliating by failing me. Morrison said my work had declined significantly in quality, that he had legitimate academic concerns about my recent submissions. He had my papers there, pointed to comments he'd written. He'd written a lot of comments, more than on anyone else's papers I'd seen, detailed criticisms. Nothing I could point to as obviously fake or unfair, just harsh grading compared to earlier in the semester. Dean said grades are academic judgments and he can't interfere, that if I felt grades were unfair I could appeal through normal academic channels. Morrison said he welcomed an appeal, that his grading was completely defensible. Then Dean said he'd spoken with the Title IX office, that they were continuing their investigation but in the meantime everyone needed to move forward professionally. He asked if I was comfortable continuing in Morrison's class. I said no. Morrison had harassed me and was retaliating. Morrison said he'd never harassed anyone, that he was hurt by these allegations, that he'd devoted 15 years to this university and this was how he was being treated. Dean said Morrison was willing to arrange alternative assignment submissions, that I could email papers instead of attending office hours, that Morrison would maintain professional boundaries and I should do the same, that we should both focus on academics and let Title IX complete their process. I asked what happens to my grades that Morrison already tanked. Dean said that's between me and my professor, that academic disputes are separate from Title IX. Morrison said he'd be happy to offer extra credit opportunities if I wanted to improve my grade, extra credit, from the man who groped me, while sitting in the dean's office being told to get along with him. I said I wanted to transfer sections. Dean said there are no other sections. I said I wanted to withdraw. Dean said that would delay my graduation. I said I wanted literally any option that didn't require interacting with Morrison. Dean said I was being difficult, that Morrison was offering reasonable accommodations and I was rejecting them, that at some point I needed to take responsibility for my academic performance. Morrison said he wanted to help me succeed, that he'd always been supportive of my academic goals, that he hoped we could move past this misunderstanding and focus on my education. I left, didn't agree to anything, went straight to Title IX and reported the meeting. They said the dean shouldn't have had Morrison there without telling me, that it was inappropriate, but there's nothing they can do about it now. I contacted the lawyer again. She said the meeting was potentially retaliation, that forcing a victim to meet with their harasser is a Title IX violation, but again, lawsuit, years, money I don't have. I also contacted that reporter friend my roommate mentioned. He writes for the student newspaper, told him everything. He wants to do a story, said several students have complained about Morrison over the years but nothing's ever been done. He interviewed me for 3 hours, looked through my documentation, said he's trying to find other victims willing to talk on record, that if he can establish a pattern, it's a real story. The article is supposed to run next week. I'm terrified and relieved. Maybe public pressure will force the university to actually do something, or maybe it'll make everything worse. I don't know anymore. Final update. 2 months later, the article ran, 4 women total including me, front page. Within hours it was everywhere. Local news, Twitter, alumni groups losing their minds. Morrison got put on leave. University president sent some email about taking allegations seriously. Dean Williams suddenly had to attend a conference in another state for 2 weeks. Then things got weird. Morrison's lawyer sent me a cease and desist, said I'd defamed him and he was suing for damages. My lawyer laughed when I forwarded it, said it was an intimidation tactic and Morrison had zero case given the Title IX finding. Yeah, forgot to mention, Title IX concluded their investigation, found him responsible, recommended firing him. Universities dragging their feet on actually doing it though. Morrison showed up at a coffee shop I go to, just sat there staring at me until I called campus police. They escorted him out. He claimed it was a coincidence. Campus police filed a report anyway. My scholarship got quietly reinstated with full standing. Advisor called and said there'd been an administrative error in my review. Sure, error, not them covering their backs after the newspaper article. The other 3 women who came forward are getting harassed. Anonymous emails, comments on their social media. One had someone leave a dead bird on her car. Campus police say they're investigating but nothing's happening. Morrison's wife filed for divorce. His kids apparently aren't speaking to him. He's living in some apartment off campus and his neighbors keep calling police because he screams at night. Real stable guy. University offered me money, settlement, $75,000 and they'd pay my last semester plus grad school tuition anywhere I wanted. In exchange I sign an NDA and drop any future legal action. My lawyer says take it, that trials take years and cost more than I'd win, that this is a good offer. The job offer got rescinded. Company said it was budget cuts but the timing's suspicious. So I need money. I need to finish school. I need to move on. I took the settlement, signed the papers last week, $75,000 deposited yesterday, tuition covered through graduation and 2 years of grad school anywhere that accepts me. Morrison resigned 3 days after I signed. University announced his retirement effective immediately. He gets his pension. They get to avoid a termination hearing. Clean break for everyone except his victims. Dean Williams got promoted to some administrative role in a different building. No student contact. University hired a new dean of students who sent an email about strengthening Title IX procedures. We'll see. The reporter wanted to do a follow-up about the settlement. I can't talk about specifics because of the NDA, but he wrote about how universities use NDAs to silence victims and protect reputations. Didn't name me but everyone knows. Morrison left town. Heard he moved to his brother's place 3 states away. Good. The farther the better. I'm finishing Morrison's class this summer with a different professor. She knows the situation, says she'll make sure I get a fair grade based on my actual work. I believe her. Graduation is in 2 weeks. My parents are coming. My roommate's throwing me a party. I'm walking across that stage with my degree and my settlement money and my acceptance letter to grad school in a completely different state. Starting over. New city. New program. New people who don't know me as that girl who reported Morrison, the other 3 women who came forward are doing okay. One transferred schools, one's taking a gap year, one's still here, toughing it out. We have a group chat, checking on each other. Nobody else really gets what this was like. 3 more women contacted the reporter after Morrison resigned. Same stories, 15 years of this, probably more we don't know about. At least he can't do it anymore. That's something. I spent $15,000 of the settlement on a car, needed one for grad school. Anyway, spent another $3,000 on a security system for my new apartment, cameras, locks, the works, call it trauma spending. The rest is going toward grad school expenses the tuition doesn't cover and an emergency fund. My lawyer says that's smart, that having money means having options means having power. My mom wanted me to save it all. My dad said spend it however I need to feel safe. I'm going with dad's advice. I ran into Morrison's ex-wife at a restaurant last week. She came up to my table. I thought she was going to yell at me. Instead she said thank you, said she had no idea what he'd been doing, that finding out destroyed her but she needed to know. She said she'd spoken to all 4 of us through our lawyers, that she wanted us to know she believed us and was sorry she hadn't seen it sooner. Then she left. That was unexpected. The settlement has a clause that if I violate the NDA, I have to return all the money plus penalties. My lawyer highlighted it 3 times, said. Universities put that in to make sure people stay quiet, so I can't talk about specifics, can't name Morrison in connection with a settlement, can't discuss internal university communications, can't share documentation from the investigation, but I can say I reported harassment, that I faced retaliation, that the system failed until public pressure forced them to act. That's not covered by the NDA because it's already public record from the article. I got accepted to 3 grad programs. Picking the one farthest from here, 800 miles away, full funding from the settlement covers living expenses for 2 years. Morrison's banned from campus. If he shows up, he gets arrested for trespassing. The restraining order from the coffee shop incident is permanent, 2 weeks until graduation. Then I'm gone. New state, new school, new life. Morrison got to retire with his pension. University got to avoid a scandal going to trial. I got money and an education and the knowledge that he can't hurt anyone else. Not perfect justice, but it's done, finished, over. I'm 21 with a bachelor's degree, $60,000 left in settlement money, and a full ride to grad school. Morrison's 54, divorced, estranged from his kids, and unemployable in academia. He lost more than I did. That'll have to be enough.